In this lab setup, we're going to be using glucose test strips as an indicator to check for the presence of the macromolecule simple sugars or simple carbohydrates. We are using water as our control, as water contains only the elements of hydrogen and oxygen and therefore should not test positive for any macromolecules, and we should not see a positive test for simple carbs in this experiment. Okay, so in your slab setup, you may be using test strips that look like this, or you may be using test strips that look like this. If they're coming out of the brown bag, you only have one testing square. If they're coming out of the round container, they look like this. They have 4 test strip areas. So if you're using this, we're going to be looking at the second test area here for glucose. If you're using out of the brown bag here, you're going to be looking just at the one square at the top, okay? So in this setup, if there are simple sugars or simple carbohydrates present in school apple juice, then our indicator, which are our glucose test strips or different test strips, our indicator will show a green. We can have light green, so we'll show light green to dark green. So let's take a look here. Light green to dark green, positive, and same thing on the bag here. Take a look. We're going to go from light green to dark green. That'll be a positive test. And if it's negative, we're only going to see this yellow color. And same thing on the bag. Negative will be that yellow color. Okay, so we're going to be testing school apple juice. So I've poured out school apple juice here. I'm going to put it into my test tube. And then I'm going to be using water as the control, as water only contains the element of hydrogen and oxygen, and therefore should not test positive for any macromolecules. So again, if you're using the brown bag, this is what your test strip looks like. You're going to dip it into the water and put it on your paper to dry. If you're using the one with the 4, same thing, and let it to dry. So that's your control, that's water. Next we're going to test, using our glucose test strips, the apple juice for the presence of simple carbs. So I'm going to take my strip, place it in the juice, and I'm going to let it dry. Same thing if you're using the 4 strip, same thing, dip it in and let it dry on your paper. Give it a minute to dry so that you can definitely tell the outcome of the test strip. Okay, so let's fill in our notes here. So the indicator that we are using today is the glucose test strip. The macromolecule we're testing for is simple carbohydrates or simple sugars. If the test is negative, we'll see yellow on our test strip. And if it's a positive test, we're going to see light green to dark green. So let's take a look and see how our test strips came out. Okay, so take a look here. If you were using this test strip, you're going to see that if it's positive, it has turned green. Okay, and one of the shades of green, you can look on here and see the various shades, and that's a positive test for simple sugars. If it was negative, like it is here for the water, we're going to see that that second test tab was yellow. And then here, if you were using this type of strip, positive is dark green, and the negative is yellow.